If you like this video, why not subscribe? Hey everybody, welcome back to the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. That's the show where you send me your questions and I try to answer them. Your best chance of having your question read on this show is to send me an email at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. You can also comment below and I'll try and pull a question from there, or maybe even ask me a question on Twitter at @frugalfilmmaker. Today I'm going to try something a little bit different. It's the first Monday of the month, which is March, and I'm starting a new thing called Trivia Monday, and that's basically where I'm going to ask you a trivia question that's broken up into two parts, spread throughout this episode. So when you hear those trivia questions and you have an answer for them, please send me an email, again at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. Tell me what you think the answers are, and you could win one of these. This is the Frugal Filmmaker short film idea deck. I'll have it mailed directly to your home. So good luck with that, and just pay attention during the episode for those trivia questions. If you didn't have a chance to catch my last episode, it was about building a safety channel adapter cable, which if you have an entry-level recorder like a Zoom H1 or a Tascam DR-05, it allows you to record in stereo, but you can't adjust those stereo channels individually. You have to adjust them both at the same time. And what this adapter cable does, if you plug it into your recorder and plug your mic into it, it automatically gives you a safety track where one channel is normal and the other channel is 12 dB lower. So if you have somebody that's wearing the microphone and they talk loudly or yell or whatever, and the first channel clips, your second channel will be there hopefully within a normal range, and you can use that as a safety track. That's the idea. This cable costs about $3, so check out that episode if something like that might interest you. Okay, on to the email questions. Our first is from Tala Faruqi. Excuse me if I messed that up. They say, I'm getting into filming interviews and testimonials and would like to get a decent lighting kit. I did some research and there are umbrella ones and softbox ones. Which one would you prefer? All right, different light kits that are under $200 is our budget here. And there are a lot of basic, really simple, granted they're made out of cheap parts, light kits you can get for under $100. There's like a 3-point light kit or a 3-light kit. I don't know if 3-point lighting is really accurate description, but you can get for under $100. They have 3 light stands and 3 CFL bulbs and 2 umbrellas. So you get away with some easy, cheap, soft lighting that way. If you are going to go into soft boxes, as you pointed out in your email, they are going to get more expensive, but you can also get these inexpensive kits, I believe for under $200, what you're looking for. The thing you have to mostly watch out for, I think, in this stuff is because you're not paying top dollar, you're getting kind of a cheap builds. So even though I'm a big fan of cheap builds, at least the ones that work, you're dealing with light stands that have kind of plastic connectors. And while I like some of these connectors, the ones that are like open and close, you have the kinds that are also twist locks, that if you put too much friction on or torque, they're going to break. But I think I prefer, as far as your question goes, umbrellas to softboxes, mostly because umbrellas give you speed. Softboxes take a little longer to set up, and if that's not an issue, if you always have all the time in the world, then go with the softbox. Softboxes are a little more controlled. They don't have as much spill, so all is kind of going in one direction toward the subject, where an umbrella just kind of bounces in a more outwardly pattern. I mean, it's going out the sides as well as the front, so it's not quite as focused, but they are faster to set up. And you could always pick up the umbrellas later, and they should fit into the same. Those bulb holders all have little holes for the umbrellas to slide in, so if you wanted to add umbrellas to that, if you needed speed in the future, you might check those out. So go ahead and I've got some links in the description to eBay that I can send you, or Amazon, that might help. If anybody else wants to chime in, you can get some no-name brand cheap stuff that's imported that can do the trick. And if you know exactly where to put the lights, use your 3-point lighting skills or look around YouTube. I've made a video about 3-point lighting to best utilize these tools. Then you can do that and be successful. Our next question also is about interviews. This comes from Brendan Donnelly, who says, I do a little bit of video work for the company that I work with. The challenge is that most people I interview are not used to being on camera and freeze up when asked to articulate themselves. Any tips for getting on-camera talent to relax and articulate themselves clearly? This is a good question, because you may be asked sometime, as Brendan obviously is to go interview someone who may not know who you are or may have never ever been interviewed before on camera. And it might be a completely alien situation to them. They're being sat down in front of all these bright lights and the camera's pointing in their face and they're just saying, go. What I would recommend is, if you don't know who this person is to meet them before the actual interview and just kind of build a little trust with them so they can get to know you, you can get to know them. So when they do come on set for the interview, it's not a completely alien experience, because you've already explained what's going to happen and you've introduced yourself and they know who you are. And then once you get them on set, I would recommend that you just do that banter again where you say, how was your day? Just have them talk. And then when the time comes to ask them questions, they're already relaxed and they know you a little better and they feel comfortable with you and they're talking to you. And hopefully by that time they've kind of even forgotten there's a camera there, but they're talking to you, not the camera. Obviously you don't want them addressing the camera because that would instantly make them uncomfortable. But have them talk to an actual person, you. And then I think you'll have a lot more success. All right, I mentioned earlier that we have a trivia question with this at stake, the Frugal Filmmaker Short Film Idea Deck. I have a 2-part trivia question, and if you get both answers, I will send this directly to your house because you will be the winner. The first question has to do with what's going on right now. Right now in this shoot, there is a movie right here, and it's a little bit out of focus, but you might be able to discern what it is, or you might recognize it. So that's the first trivia question. What is this film right there? Our next question is from Brian Purcell, who says, I got a Sony A99 DSLR. Whenever I send out my video signal to an external monitor via HDMI, the signal comes through on the monitor, but the camera's LCD goes dark. Does this happen to you? And if so, have you found a workaround? Well, this does happen to me. I have a Sony NEX5N, also a Sony camera like your A99, only it's mirrorless. And the same thing happens. You plug in the external HDMI and the screen on the actual camera goes blank. The monitor comes on. So if you really need an external monitor, you can't use these Sony cameras. You can't use Canons, they have the same problem. Unless, of course, you take a step up and spend a few more $1,000s. And I shot my thesis film with a Sony FS700, and it didn't have this problem. I know Red doesn't have this problem, Blackmagic, et cetera, et cetera. But then you're spending $2,000, $3,000 at least on a camera. Of course, you can always rent those cameras, but if you're looking for some kind of workaround for these sub $1,000 cameras, it seems like a lot of them have this problem. The only ones I've seen or heard about that don't have this problem are the Panasonics. I know for sure the GH series doesn't have this problem. I've got an old Canon camcorder that I've shot all my stuff, probably 90% of my videos on. It didn't have this problem, and it's old. So if this technology has existed for all this time, why hasn't it been implemented in newer cameras? I don't know, but apparently it's not. So there's no workaround. Only thing I know of that you can fix this with is to either just live with the situation or change to Panasonic GH series. Next up we have Yosef Karim. Hope I didn't get that wrong. They say our film is about the 70s, 1970s I presume. The original buildings and places are no more to be found. You mentioned you don't like green screen. How would you go about making this film? Well, you're right, I don't like green screen, especially in the micro budget world, because trying to duplicate a location that is no longer around, say, or maybe you want to shoot something behind you that you can't possibly get to, like let's say the Eiffel Tower, for example, it's going to look like you're in front of a chroma key and it's going to look bad. So unless you're going for a comedy, I don't recommend trying to recreate a set with a green screen. It's kind of a no-no anyway. If you don't have a lot of money to spend, to try and do a period piece is really tough because you have to be able to buy or make those props and those costumes and set dressings that are going to look like they're from that era. And that can get really expensive really fast. Now, if you have an excellent production designer, they might be able to save you a bunch of money because they know exactly what they're doing. So if you have access to somebody like that, use them by all means, but it doesn't sound like you really do because you're asking me. But if you can look around or ask around, network, see if you can find a production designer who might be able to help you recreate the 1970s. They can help you go to thrift stores and vintage clothing stores and things like that. You can get old props. That might be the best way to go. Even if you don't have everything, use as much as you can. But it's tough. The second question has to do with kind of Frugal Filmmaker history. If you're familiar with this channel at all, you might know that when I started doing the Q&A show, I did it in my car, the car I owned at the time, which is no longer around. Now my question to you is as part 2 of the trivia question. It's actually a 3-part, second part trivia question. That is, what is the year, make, and model of that car? And if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know exactly what it is because I mentioned it all the time. But if you don't, you can poke around in those playlists to poke around those Q&As and see if I ever mention that in the videos. A lot of videos to wade through, so I'm sorry if you don't know the answer because it might take you a while to find it. But when you think you know what the answers are, please send them to me via email to frugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. And if you're the first one to get both answers right, or all the answers right, then I will announce it next week and send this deck to you. Our final question is a comment from last week's Q&A from Robert Fulmer, who says, what would you consider to be required in a short filmmaker startup kit? Keep in mind, I will be filming stationary, mobile, inside and outside video. So, Robert, it sounds like you're going to be filming just about everything. It's a good question, though. A short filmmaker startup kit, I kind of like that idea. It might be good material for a future video. Obviously, you have to have a camera. These are moving pictures. We have to be able to record those moving pictures somehow. There are cameras everywhere, of course. You have a camera on your smartphone, really good cameras now. even though the lens is extremely wide angle. So that's important to have a camera. I also recommend having a tripod to park the camera on, so you're not shooting everything handheld. The tripod this camera is standing on right now has been through at least 3 or 4 cameras that I've owned, and it's still standing. It's in pretty good shape, even though there's a couple bent parts on it, but it's tough. It's a tank, that's what I call it. Just as important as video is audio, unless you're shooting all silent stuff or just music videos. If you want sound, you need a microphone, you need a way to record that sound. If you want to save money, you can get a camera that has a mic input, or get an external audio recorder. So you're running your microphone into the recorder, get some headphones so you can monitor that sound. Get a recorder that lets you monitor sound levels so you can ride them and put them in the right place. So they're not too low where there's too much hiss if you have to boost it later, or they're too high where they're clipping while you're shooting, that type of a thing. For a startup kit, I think you would need some kind of a light kit. You need some kind of lights. Even if it's just the lights in the room, know how to position those lights, and you can make your set look that much better. If you don't know what you're doing, you're just turning all the lights on, it's going to look like you're just turning all the lights on. If you get a basic light kit, you can get one for $50. I'll leave a link in the description below. That should be able to help you. Again, 3-point lighting is important. If you don't know how to do that, I've got a video, I'll put that in the description below. There are videos all over YouTube about 3-point lighting. I also recommend you get some kind of a reflector or bounce card. You can get those collapsible reflectors in various sizes from like $10 to $20. Or you can just go to the dollar store and get a bounce card, just a piece of white foam core. It's about 2 feet by 3 feet, whatever. And that's handy to have outside when you need some extra light in someone's face or eyes. If I'm leaving anything out, I'm sorry, but I'm sure people will chime in below and tell you what else might be really valuable for a Filmmaker startup kit. That's all the questions this week. Remember, if you'd like to have your question read on this show, please send it to thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com, and I'll try to answer you via email and also on this show if I can. You can also make a comment below with a question, or you can send me a question on Twitter @FrugalFilmmaker. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all the questions you submitted. I'll have a new video this Thursday or Friday, and then another Q&A on Monday. So thanks for watching. And again, good luck with the trivia question, something new I'm trying at the first Monday of the month. Trivia Monday here on the Q&A. So we'll see you.